With the channel growing more and more popular, I kind of thought it'd be fun to interact with you guys a little bit more. So I wanted to start a Q&A series where we can discuss some of the latest parts or any questions that you guys have. For today's video, I kind of just grabbed some random comments out of the past handful of videos that I've been putting out, and I just plan on answering some of them in this video. A lot of these comments I have already answered their questions in that comment section, but I think it would be fun just to maybe put out a little PSA for anybody that maybe didn't see the comment and has a similar question, or, just to make you guys aware that I'm going to be doing this kind of Q&A series. So, you'll have a potential to be in one of my videos. You can comment down below for this video if you want to get into the next one, or you can just ask questions on any of the other videos I upload. I love talking about computers, so I just thought this would be a lot of fun to do for me and for you guys as well, so that we can have a fun discussion about, what parts you should buy, one graphics card versus another, pricing, all that kind of stuff. So why don't we just get right into it? I'm going to start off with the first question here. First one is from Enjoy the Silence. Good video. Do you recommend the i5 11400F or the i3 12100F? And on paper, this question might seem more simple than what it is. Either somebody is going to say, oh, just go with something newer, go with the 12th gen and get the i3, or somebody's going to say, well, the 11400F is an i5, and i5s, generally speaking, are better and have more cores, so go with the i5, even if it is on an older platform. So for me personally, obviously everything matters. Context and where you're at, what you're trying to do, what games you're playing, video editing, whether you upgrade frequently. Just there's a lot of factors into making your choice. Personally, for me right now, I like the 12100F because if you run into some extra cash and you want to upgrade later on down the line, you can swap out that 12th gen part for like a 13600K or the 13400 when it comes out eventually. You got upgrade paths down the line that are gonna end up lasting you a long time. I think GPUs have a little ways to catch up to the raw horsepower that some of these CPUs are putting out. You can easily get away with like a 12400F all the way up to like a 3090 Ti, especially if you're not playing 1080p. If you're playing like 1440p or 4K, your CPU really doesn't need to be that killer. I think we saw that in the video I put out a couple weeks back, where I took the 12100F and I paired it with a 6900 XT. And at 1080p, yeah, it was creating a huge bottleneck. It was terrible. But once I bumped it up to 4K and even 1440p, depending on what game it was doing perfectly fine and giving you the same exact results that you would have seen on like a 5800X 3D or like a 13700K, 13900K. It's all about what your setup is, what your goal is, whether you're trying to like play esports games at 1080p, that would require a better CPU. I know it's a bit long-winded, but to answer the question between the 11400F or 12100F, like I said, for me personally, I would get the i3. They perform almost exactly the same. They're really similar if you look at a lot of benchmarks. They trade blows here and there by like a few frames. It's like a couple percentage difference between the two over a wide variety of tests. The only thing I will say is that the 11400F does have more cores, so there are certain workloads that require those extra cores that would make me lean towards the 11400F if you needed them. Otherwise, get the 12100F, it'll work great for you. Awesome cost, and it's a better platform. Moving on to our next comment. This one is from Lato23. And he asks, may I ask if you had to pair a 3070 with either an i5 11400 or 1312100 for AAA games, upgrade path being of no concern, what would you choose? Now, obviously this is kind of similar to the previous question. I think the reason why he's asking this one is in the video I said the bottleneck for the 12100 was about the 3070. The 11400 actually might be able to get away with a 3070 a little bit more just because the extra cores. Because he said the upgrade path is no concern, which is the big caveat, right? That is exactly what I was talking about. On the previous comment was I said that the 12100F gives you room to upgrade. Without thinking about upgrades, I probably would go with the 11400 if they were at the same price. The platform's probably cheaper, the motherboard's cheaper. I assume that the 11th gen stuff is probably on sale and really easy to pick up. If not, I mean, hopefully at this point it's not completely sold out. If it sells out, then it's going to be hard to get your hands on one. But if they're running like flash sales on this stuff because they're just trying to burn that old inventory, you can probably pick one up really cheap, and the motherboards are going to be really cheap. DDR4 memory is really cheap. So yeah, I mean, if upgrade path was no concern, I could see where you would save a little money getting 11400, and you actually probably would get slightly better performance with a 3070 overall. For anybody that can upgrade or wants to upgrade, like I said, I would still go with the 12100, but I just thought it'd be good to add this question in there just as a different perspective, just so you guys kind of know where I'm at when it comes to choosing between certain processors. You really gotta like consider where you're at when it comes to whether you got the money to upgrade, whether this is going to be a one and done purchase, what you're playing, you know, stuff like that, everything I explained earlier. Moving on to our next question. This one's from Mike. It says, the CPU is not overkill for the 6900 XT question mark. If I use only for PC, any difference between 5600X and this one? This is in reference to the 5800X 3D Red Devil build that we put together. So basically he's asking if the 5800X 3D is just super overkill for a 6900 XT. It kind of is. I mean, there's a lot of headroom there for sure. I mean, you've seen benchmarks with the 4090 and 13900Ks and the 7900Xs where the 5800X 3D trades blows perfectly fine. So sure, I mean, the CPU is a little overkill, but realistically, I think a lot of people, the way they see CPUs, just to sidetrack a little bit here, is when you over-index in your CPU and you under-index in your graphics card, you're almost taking a bet that you're going to be upgrading that graphics card later on down the line. It's kind of the easiest thing in your build to replace. It's extremely simple just to unplug some cables, unscrew this GPU, you know, pop it out of its little PCIe slot and slot another one in, install new drivers, and you're done. It's really a very low hassle process for the most part. So I think the other thing about the 5800X 3D as well is that it's kind of on a dead-end platform. It's kind of like the best thing you can get, period. So if you aren't going to be upgrading your platform, that's kind of your end game there. To get the 5800X 3D and you use that until you can't anymore. Now, comparing it to the 5600X, at 1080p, I do think that the 5600X would probably start running into some bottlenecks depending on the game. I mean, one that pops into my head right away is like Cyberpunk. I think you'd probably run into it in like, if you're really trying to push high frames and like Doom Eternal or something like that. So, I mean, the biggest difference is that the 5800X 3D is just going to let you push your system much further into the future. And it's extremely powerful. And I do think across the board, generally speaking, you're going to be getting, you know, a couple percentage higher frame rate, even if the GPU is your bottleneck. That's just from my experience when I am doing these benchmarks. It seems like if the CPU is a little bit more powerful, even if the GPU is your bottleneck, you tend to get like a handful more frames than, you know, any of the other CPUs. I don't know why that is. I mean, certain games too, like, just work better with certain CPUs. I think that's why the 3D of the version of the 5800X is so powerful, is that it has so much cache, and these games really like using that extra cache. So that's why you just see this huge performance gain using it. So honestly, if you're on a budget, 5600X is great, but like the 5800X 3D is like just gonna be perfect, and it's gonna last you a really long time. And right now they're pretty cheap, so that's kind of. I hope that answers that question a little bit. Yeah, that's the main difference basically, is that 5800X 3D has got a lot more V cache, which is really great for games. 5600X is a bit lower end, doesn't have the extra cache, probably isn't going to get you as much frames, and you're going to see some bottlenecking unless you're playing at high resolutions. Moving on to the next question, it is from Peter Bread, and this one is says, is the CPU worth upgrading from my 2600X? And this is also referring to the 5800X 3D. Basically, same rant that I just went through. The 2600X, while it's a pretty good CPU, probably feeling a little dated by now. Awesome thing about what AMD did in that generation is that you can upgrade to whatever latest CPU is out there. You just got to update your BIOS, which you can easily do since you have the 2600X in there. You don't even need to use BIOS flashback. So yeah, update to the newest BIOS on your motherboard, and you can slot in a 5800X 3D really easily. So I would say yes, it is worth upgrading. You basically are at your end game with that platform. You'll have the ultimate CPU, and it still trades blows with even the best stuff that's out right now. So you're going to be, right in there with everybody else. And I think it's going to last you a long time. You're not going to have to worry about upgrading again for a while in the future. I mean, overall, if you think about it, the cost to jump to a completely new platform compared to the cost of just slotting in a 5800X 3D is like kind of a no-brainer. You're talking thousands of dollars going to a different platform, where the 5800X 3D right now is going for, a few $100s, like 300. I mean, I've seen sales where they're like $350. So, yeah. Yes, get the 5800X 3D. Awesome CPU. All right, our next question here is from Night Shadow, and he asks, would the Contac 9 SE work with the 5800X for gaming? So this is in reference, obviously, to my CPU cooler review that I did for the 12100F. If you're not familiar with it, basically, it's a really, I don't want to say cheap, but yeah, it's a cheap tower cooler for lower end builds, essentially. Rather than using, for example, the Intel and AMD stock cooler designs where, they just have that big disc and it just kind of is flat right on the motherboard, and it's got a fan that just blows straight out. Thermaltake made the Contac 9 where it's like a tower cooler. It's really small. It's only about like, I don't know if this is good, but a good measurement. But basically it's about like that tall. I think the fan it uses is like a 120 millimeter fan or something like that, or an 80 millimeter. It's really small. The advantage that it gave you, from my experience when I had tested it, at least, just to give a quick, run over, the Intel stock cooler seemed like it spread the heat around the CPU quite a bit, like going onto the motherboard and the VRMs and even the backplate of the GPU. It was getting so warm while I was doing tests, even with that lower end CPU that doesn't get very hot, that the fans for the GPU were kicking on because the backplate for it was getting so hot. That was when I was running like a CPU test. I was running Cinebench, and the fans were kicking on for the GPU. Where when I put the tower cooler on, the way that tower coolers are designed is it kind of like, takes that heat and puts them up into those pipes vertically, and then just blows straight out the back. It's really efficient versus just blowing hot air straight into the glass of your case and just then swirling around and hopefully blowing out the back. Depending on, you got to have basically kind of better airflow in your case to get the most out of it. I liked the Contac 9 SE for lower end builds if you had like an extra $15-20 laying around to get one. But for the question here, his use case is a 5800X, and I would say it is not suitable for a 5800X. I think a 5800X needs at least like, the thing is like if you're on a budget, I don't know why you'd be going with 5800X. So if money isn't the issue and you can spend like an extra like $15, you can get a ton of awesome tower coolers. Like there's the AK, I think it's called like 400 or 240 or something like that. Just the basic like tower cooler from, I think it's Deep Cool makes it. There's also the Vitru V5. That cooler works really well. I used it for my 12600K for a while before I upgraded. There's a lot of like $30 to $35 options out there that are just going to do better than the Contac 9 SE, especially for something like a 5800X, which would really be able to utilize that extra cooling power. So no, I would not use like a basic $20 cooler on a 5800X. Definitely spend the extra $15 just to get a little bit of a higher end tower cooler. You'd be surprised how different the thermal performance is going to be. And honestly, skimping out on your cooling power in the long run is going to hurt you, because your parts are going to, you know, run hotter and they're going to degrade faster, which is never good, especially if you don't upgrade very often. Well, that leads us into our last question here, and this one is a bit of a joke. It is from Tom Waller, and he asks, are you sure your cooler mounting is even across the socket? Yeah, I don't know. This is one of the ones I just kind of tossed it here as a joke. I wasn't really sure what he was referring to, so I mean, if you guys could enlighten me, please do. I believe it was on the video where I upgraded my 12600K to a 13600K. Apparently he thought I installed my CPU cooler wrong. No, I didn't. I followed the instructions just like I did the first time, and I would assume I'd be having some major overheating problems if I didn't install it correctly, which I am not. So, anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Honestly, I had a lot of fun just kind of rambling about computers. You know, as I said earlier, I kind of love talking about it. So, you know, if you have any questions for me, leave them down below. I would love to do another one of these Q&A videos. Even just ask general questions about like what's going on in like the market, like GPU prices, 7900 XTX coming out, what I think about like NVIDIA's like scummy practices. 3060 8GB that just came out, for an example, is like kind of an interesting topic that it doesn't seem like it deserves a full video, because I don't own one at the moment. I don't really plan on buying one. It's kind of a waste of money, and all I'd be getting out of it is a single video. But for a video like this, it'd be a fun question just to talk about it really quick. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's really going to do it for today. Before I let you go, I'm going to hit you with a quick word from our sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by us here at OmniArray Electronics, who make custom-built PCs at a great cost. We offer free shipping and is built with the care you would expect from a smaller business like ours. And if you want something more rustic, go out and check out our friends at EclectronicPC, where they do custom wood grain PCs that look really incredible and can mix in with a more traditional themed home much better than a normal steel PC. Once again, check us out on OmniArray Electronics, or head over to our friends at EclectronicPC for any of your custom build needs. Alright, once again, guys, thank you for watching the video today. If you enjoyed it, please hit a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate the interactions. It helps a lot with the algorithm. Once again, if you want to be in the next Q&A, leave a comment down below, or comment on any of my other videos with questions and, you know, just things I can talk about. Like I said, this is a lot of fun to do. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing. Helps me know that you guys are enjoying everything, and you know, we're getting pretty close to 100. I'm at 80 right now. You know, the first 100 is always a major milestone, so you could be one of the first. You could be one of the first people. You could say you're one of the first 100 to be subscribed on the channel. So anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for today. Thank you once again, and I'll see you all in another video.